Hello, welcome to another episode with me, Onyx. I guess I should say another episode of Full Circle. um, Today I will speak on something that's very relevant: magical psychic attack, or any type of attack, even in the physical realm. Um, I'm just gonna say everything is psychology. And that is the essence of magic, and that is the essence of navigating through this reality, this world. Um, so there have been a lot of people coming to me over the last week. We had this lunar eclipse in Scorpio, and a lot of, I would say, a couple people have asked for magical assistance. And really, in even on a broader scale, I've been experimenting with magical healing, and I'm doing a really good job. And so it's interesting that on my journey through being a magical warrior, a wizard that specialized in warcraft, that would be like fighting, magical defense systems, counterattacks, that I've switched to healer. And I've always, at different times in my life, been working with healer. And so my background is in martial arts. I took martial arts as a kid. That got me interested into energy and meditation and yoga. Then I got certified as a massage therapist to learn more about the body and its physiology and its energy. And healing, in a weird way, wasn't the focus because I was always naturally a healer. Um, Having a water moon, healing arts just is my vibe. So intuition is just my vibe. Uh, So I knew that healing just happens because that's just the energy that I am. But I wanted to learn more about anatomy, physiology, um, the human being. And then I also wanted to learn more about yoga and meditation. So I got certified as a yoga instructor. I've been practicing meditation. I'm not the greatest at that. I mean, obviously, I think it's something that you never really master. You just continue the path. Just don't give up. Um, and so moving into this kind of talk, this lecture, this kind of spilling the tea on how to magically protect yourself or be better than the average so-called magician or wizard or anyone else. And you kind of have to have a mentor, and you kind of have to have access to knowledge. And so reading books on magic is important, but also doing magic. So we find most people borrow their power. They're summoning spirits, they're working with familiar spirits. They're doing everything to like in a religious sense, win the affection and favor of a deity, whether it's Satan or whether it's Jesus, as an extreme example of conversations that happened this week. Um, or even Kali, uh, a goddess, and then I work with a solar deity. Um, that's great and all, but you have to be able to evolve and grow and develop in your own personal power, and the real knowledge comes through practicing. And I would say a book that teaches you how to do the lesser banishing ritual, the pentagram, or the tree of life, Kabbalah path working, and all this stuff you're going to learn in occult school that's been in that you can read from any used bookstore source from like the 60s and 70s, 80s, all the you know, there's a lot of publication on magic, the art of ritual, the art of ceremony, the art of summoning, and the tools like scrying, tarot, numerology, all that stuff. And there's a lot of bullshit, and there's some practical themes. But the reality is, you have to have experience. You have to like go get in a magical fight. You have to be picked on. You have to be attacked from the astral realm. You have to experience ET type entities, uh, entities from other dimensions opening up portals and attacking you. You have to experience being attacked in dreams and lucid dreams and other states of consciousness, and how to defend yourself. And a part of that, it's just like in the physical world. Whether it's a brother, a sister, a relative, a friend, a neighbor, a jealous boyfriend or girlfriend, or a third party outside of that, um, or whether it's just people on the freeway, uh, we're always slinging energy, we're always attacking each other. We always have a tendency to think we're right. And we have this need to defend ourselves because we're righteous and we're the select chosen ones, or we're the oppressed minority of some age, sex, race, whatever it is. There's like a cause. Like our identities are always being uh, are are always being challenged, and so there's so much going on. And we also don't realize uh, there's a lot of mental illness in just the brain and its diseases. Like we all know we live and die, and we all accept some psychological disorders, but we're not really understanding these psychological disorders happen because of brain uh, abnormalities. Like we just think, oh, the body has cancer, or we die of a heart attack, or someone had kidney failure. Those are very minor considering we don't even know all the type of little diseases that can be happening in the neurons, in the cells, in the DNA. And so the brain and that person who's operating that life called them, they, it's not just information. It's not just judgment. It's not just they don't like you. It's they actually are mentally disabled and they're viewing you as an enemy. It's not just that they're living in their primal self. It's not just that you threaten them because you're an empowered woman or you're gothic or you're a minority who's now in power, or it's not just financial status. It's not, it's when you really start looking at the individual, you go, okay, you're also just a brain. Your body is fueling your brain. And that brain is not perfect. That brain is troubled. It's it's like a whole nother universe in just someone's physical brain. There's a black hole in there, a brain tumor they don't even know about. You know, you, so a lot of diseases we don't understand and find out until the person's dead and we're doing an autopsy on them. So, why am I saying this? We need to have awareness, self awareness, discernment. And, people don't like the word judgment, but judgment is when you assess all the bits of information that you consider facts, you arrange them into what you consider a reasonable, logical analysis, you come up with a conclusion. And that conclusion is this a yes or is this a no? Is this healthy? Is this not healthy? Is it time to leave? Do I stay engaged? And the judgment is, okay, enemy. Now it's time to defend ourselves or step back. And so a lot of people just are emotionally charged, because we get triggered. That's the psychology. Someone looks ugly and they're older, and that reminds us of death. It reminds us of cruelty. And so unconsciously, the primal self kind of remembers someone vaguely like that, or someone with the sound of that voice, or the smell, or the attitude, and then we react without thinking. And to strongly avoid something, we run. And when you can't run, you attack. And sometimes attacking opens a space for you to run. So we go into fight and flight. And so we're constantly bombarded by our own primal self that doesn't really have clear discernment. It just knows pleasure and pain response. And so pleasure and pain response is also, you're attractive, you're not attractive. What you're saying is attractive and pleasant, and I'm warming up to that idea, or ooh, it doesn't sound good. So it gets even worse when we have a whole structure of belief systems, attitudes, past experience that we consider truths, these filters. And so information is going through filters, it's going through our primal self. And that's a lot of stuff going on in one moment. So it's not really, so I'm presenting this because yeah, we might get more powerful, and we might, or hire someone, a friend, to do some magical work for us, some banishing, some protecting or attacking, or who knows. And we didn't realize, we never took our opponent into full consideration. So it's like, if you're going to attack another country, you might want to know their customs. You might want to know their thinking. You might want to know their attitude, because it's very possible that your way of being is very offensive to their way of being. There's cultures where if you look at them directly in the eyes, that's considered offensive, because they believe eyes are the window to the soul to such an extent that if you look at them too strongly, you will suck their soul, or you will harm their energy. And so it's actually, instead of considered, so in our culture, we shake hands, we look at each other in the eyes, and we smile. In another culture, a smile, when you show your teeth, it means aggression. So they're like, you're looking at me in the eyes directly, so you're attacking me. You're smiling, and now you're reaching out with a hand instead of maybe a hug or a bow. And so Western culture is very offensive to other cultures, but we don't think about it because these are our customs. And so the reality is, everyone's very unique. We just assume our natural behavior, our certain colors that we wear are okay or not okay. And so there's cultures where it's forbidden or it's frowned upon to uh, hang out with women. So the men walk on one side of the street and the women walk on the other side of the street. And when it's time for sleeping, the men and women separate. And the female relatives gather on this side of the room and the men on that side of the room. And we think, whoa, aren't we all civilized, and haven't we moved past this? No, certain cultures believe women carry a certain energy. In order for them to maintain it and work with it and cultivate it, they need to spend most of their time together. And the men, for them, they need to protect their energy from the women. So, and so they, so that's, so we look at these core beliefs of a culture, of a nationality. And so there's a lot of customs. Like some cultures believe it's very rude and punishable by death to stand behind someone. Uh, And you would think, oh, that makes sense. In feng shui, you want to have your back to where you're strong. So facing a wall, if you're a leader, to have someone else behind there means they could be blocking you from the strength of the mountain, or of the wall to support you. So they've literally taken that option away. Another person goes, well, yeah, being stabbed in the back or you can't see behind you, it's best to have all your opponents in front of you. So there's tactical reasons why that was wrong. For another culture, it was wrong because they literally believe the future is behind them and the past is in front. And in order to actually move into your future, you need to take steps backwards. Whoa, mind blowing on how in little ways we are offending each other. We just assume we assume the certain words we use don't offend people, our certain body language. So in some cultures, if you make physical sounds after a meal, it's a compliment, where in other cultures, it's an insult. If you eat all the food on your plate, it's insulting. Or if you leave some of it, it's insulting. And so and that's just our culture. So now you got to think every individual has their rules of what is offensive, what is not offensive, why they feel triggered. So so the word crazy is a positive word for me. I go like crazy. It means unbelievable. It means astounding. It means I didn't see that one coming. What a nice surprise. Or it's different. How refreshing. Where in one of my close friends, the word crazy was like the worst thing you could ever say. So when we started hanging out, I would drop the word crazy all the time as a compliment. And then she would be offended. And then I had to hear the story. Her mom was crazy. Her mom had some mental disabilities. Her mom was sometimes very loving and normal, and then sometimes very abusive and off the charts dangerous for everyone around her, including herself. And so, because she received abuse from that, and she she thought maybe she had some of those qualities, the word crazy was a very sensitive subject. And so that's a really good example of a historical filter being placed over our experience. So we're just not. And so when we think about everyone getting along and everyone being understanding, and there's lots of room for confusion, there's lots of room for misunderstanding. So when you're going to do a magical attack, or defend yourself because someone is actually coming to you thinking that you're the source of the problems, you're the bad guy, you're the devil, you're the cause of their suffering. It's usually, I mean, it could be that primal self, it could be part of that historical filter, it could be a cultural filter. There's so many. And so where was the room for negotiations and diplomacy and clear communications? So kind of detaching allows little room to breathe, de-escalate from that instinct, fight, I'm right, or flee and run, that's the bad person. So we come up with narratives, and the narratives aren't real, but we agree upon them, and we describe them, we give them definitions, and we create a story, a mythical story, and then we think it's real. And I think a really popular one that a lot of shady people are capitalizing on is narcissist, sociopath, um, and and all that bullshit. Is there a neurological thing? Maybe. And should that person, if they're having a neurological or a brain disease, which makes them behave in sociopathic ways or narcissistic ways? Does that mean we now abuse them or have the right to treat them differently? Like, where is tolerance? Where is acceptance? Where is the respect that everyone deserves? And so I feel the victim mindset is the same as a religious mindset. It's the power is outside of me. The power to grant me good things and support me, the gods, or the monster, the bad guy. It's them, it's they. We blame the government. We blame authority figures. We blame the weather. We blame the conditions. It's always outside of you. So it seems like the hero and the villain are outside of you in a religious mindset. And you have to work to earn their favor in some way, or the opposite, close it down. I need to raise shields and get out my psychic magical warfare stuff to defend myself. So we aggressively resist. So in massage therapy, going through the deep tissue program, the structural integration, the Rolfing program, uh, one of the first things they said was how the question you should be asking your client, we're going to do deep tissue work to change someone's posture or work with an injured to realign someone. That creates change. So, how comfortable are you with change? And usually, the more you resist change, the more, oh my goodness, I'll pop up. The more you resist change, the more there is pain. And there's stuff that comes up and needs to be processed. History needs to be removed. And so it's basically how comfortable are you with pain? How comfortable are you with change? And then how, I guess I would say then, knowing how much time you need to measure your processing of all this, because it takes a lot to change. So when someone's had a big change in their life, it could be considered a trauma. Someone dies in your life, that's a huge change. You're traumatized, you're frozen, you're paralyzed. Your whole world is shattered. Your inner world, your outer world, the meaning of life, it's shattered. That's a big change immediately. And you feel out of control, so helpless, violated. You question God, and all that stuff comes into play. You question your identity. So same with a really powerful new experience, like an alien all of a sudden in your front room. What a change from your pet, from your neighbor, from your friend. Now you're dealing with this being that you didn't even know is real, and it's in your experience. So having an entity or a person challenge you goes against everything you've experienced. It's new. That's a huge change. And so the measure of newness, the measure of difference, could result in a very unpleasant reaction from your primal self, could result in that information going through your filters and being processed as a negative, when really it might be a positive. You might feel offended. Well, couldn't you have rang the doorbell and left a gift, or come bearing gifts, Mr. Alien? Why are you in my room? Why are you in my house without an invitation? Or who knows? And so I guess this was pretty like a long lecture on, it's like, what, before you pull the trigger, before you learn, okay, so you're going to go grab a gun, you're going to learn to defend yourself, and you get really good at shooting guns. Are you also ever going to learn to assess the situation well enough? Assess yourself. We get good at assessing others. Do we really know our limitations, our weaknesses, our triggers, our shadows, our hidden points? Have we had 5 years of psychological work done on ourselves to realize You know what? We're all human. We're all broken as a society with the it's like when you go one direction, you close the door to the other direction. So humanity's going in one direction. And so we've closed a lot of other doors. So we're out of balance. So can you give someone a break? Do you know how to forgive? Do you know how to do the amendment process? Like, how well are you at actually mending broken relationships? Because it's like, if you're going to go out there and be a murderer on a magical level, are you a surgeon? Are you a great healer? Because that might bring some balance to your warrior. So, it's been said one reason why ninjas were so effective was because they also included healing arts. So, if you could, maybe get injured, but then also recover, then you could fight again. And so then it would be like your clan never died, and you would be like this mythical warrior. And it was because there was balance. They had healing arts. When you bring in healing arts, you start really developing relationship, connection, unity. You start understanding life. You start respecting it. So you're playing the game at a different level. You're not just being a hero and a bully. You're now becoming a warrior and a spiritual warrior and a sage and a master. And so you start evaluating things before you just react. So you kind of train that primal self. It's like now it's a beautiful tiger with a diamond collar and you're holding it instead of just a wild tiger. Both tigers can hunt and kill and eat someone. However, one is trained. And in the society that we live in, the trained tiger or lion is going to be more effective. It's going to live a longer life versus the wild one, which might accidentally target the wrong person, go wild, go on a blood killing spree, and then have to be put down. And so you can look at your primal self in a new modern world and it's trying to adjust. You can look at your own self. You were raised in your house, your community, and your culture, and now you're forced to work with people and have interactions of all different types of people, and there has to be an adjustment. And so it pays to discipline yourself. It's not control your emotions. It's not all love and light, or it's not good or bad. These are very polarized, it's there's more depth, there's more breadth. We need to gain more perspective, multiple views, and understanding. So there needs to be time for reflection. So pausing before you hit the nuclear button to blow up your neighbor. Um, finding so you want to conserve your energy. You want to be wise. So it's like love, wisdom, and power. Just because you have a nuclear weapon of magical power doesn't mean you use it. Just because you're willing to go to some unlimited extreme doesn't mean you need to. There needs to be self love. Is it worth my time? Is it worth my energy? Or am I giving my power away to the thing I'm afraid of, to the change I'm resisting? Could I gain some foresight and realize this person bothering me is actually helping me become stronger? They're showing me where I have no boundaries. So, this is the difference between someone who wants to evolve and grow in personal power and develop, or someone who just has something to prove, someone who feels threatened, someone who needs to justify where they're at, insecure and weak. So, temperamental people that are quick to be triggered, who don't have the ability to reflect, self evaluate, and keep the long term goal in perspective and in sight, in the long run, they lose. And so part of winning is keeping your power or having enough to recover and then live a decent life. We'll be ending this because usually my video cuts out here. And we'll call this the introduction to psychic protection, because we really, in the end, it starts and ends with you.